Welcome to Uniting the Cults. This one is about the question, could God break his own laws? And I want to talk about a previous post that led to this one first. So let's see here. So in this one, I asked, could God be evil? And it got a lot of comments. Suppose God exists, just for argument's sake. Could that God be evil? Please explain your view. This person starts to get into detail about why they think God can be evil. And I just wanted to ask him a question to expose more of his reasoning, which was, can God break his own rules? And they said, I don't think this question is right. I don't even understand what that means. Maybe he thinks, of course, he can break his own rules. So the question doesn't make sense. I don't know, but he never replied. So similar thing happened. So this person is explaining why they think God can be evil or some version of that. So I asked, can God break his own rules? And they say yes. And I get a little bit deeper in the question. Are you saying that God could have created the universe in such a way that the universe has contradictions? This is just another way of asking the same question. And they answer in a way that was interesting. They said it wouldn't be a coherent universe, which is kind of like insinuating that they think would have to be a coherent universe. So they're kind of on my side saying the universe can't have contradictions, which means if there is a God, and if God created the universe, he must have created a universe without contradictions. So the idea that God created a universe with contradictions makes no sense. So another little reply here where I'm trying to get further clarification, and they say, of course, God can break his own rules. But they were talking about Islam in particular, meaning like the version of God that Islam claims. But I wasn't asking about Islam. I was asking about God in general, like the idea of God. Can, we're trying to figure out what conceptions of God make sense and which ones don't, assuming even that there is any that makes sense. So I asked, could that God break the laws of nature that he created? And he says, sure, why not? So I say, doesn't that introduce contradictions? So they say, it does, but a being like you described would be the one to decide everything, what the contradictions will be, why they will be, or will they be at all. So I asked, so you think a universe could exist that has contradictory laws of nature? And you think that just because a God made it? Wouldn't you rather say that a universe with contradictory laws of nature cannot exist, and so it's not possible for a God to create such a universe? So they end up agreeing with me, I think, because they're saying, yeah, God could create anything, but then that's impossible, so there is no God. That's what they're saying, I think. Let's see. It implied that God can and cannot exist. Okay, that makes no sense. I think, wow, we went for 15 replies. So he said something like, we can't refute God, so we can. I think they mean with empirical evidence, you can't. You can just use philosophical evidence, pointing out a contradiction. So he said, we're talking about a potential thing that is unbound by reasoning and logic. Why should a God be unbound by reasoning or logic? That makes no sense. So here's how I clarify it for them. We're talking about theories and whether or not the theories adhere to reality. The God theory is a theory about reality. We should check it for flaws. If it has even a single flaw, it's refuted, and it seems you found one. They say God theory isn't a scientific theory, though. So I say, you're ignoring what I said initially, which is that we refute theories for having philosophical flaws before considering whether to try to refute them with an experiment. This one is refuted by philosophical flaws. And he said, okay, it can be, but I tend to not use philosophical flaws. We'll change the subject here. I say, you can change that. He said, probably should, but we will see about it. So I said, to be clear, you were using some philosophical criticism, but I guess you didn't recognize it as philosophical criticism. So they say they're interested in what I mean. So I gave them an example of what they said, which constitutes philosophical criticism. He said, theories like God theory will never be true and will always be in the realm of possibility. Now, to be clear, sometimes people give criticism and they're not explaining anything, and this is one of those. But the point is, it is a criticism. It's an attempt to explain a flaw. Okay, so now let's go to the newer post. Could God break his own laws? Suppose a being created the universe, let's call it God. Could that being break his own laws of nature, like bend his own rules to help or hurt someone? Please explain your view. Don't just make a claim with no explanation. If you do just make a claim, I'll just ask you, why do you believe that? So they said, yes, if he made everything and has nothing above him, then God would have no bounds, no logic, no anything. He can do whatever he wants, and none of it would be a bad or good. He would be a being with no compass on anything. So I say, so do you mean that God can have contradictions? And they say, why do you believe he can't? So I just say, I have reasons, but I wonder, how did you come to the conclusion that I believe that? Like, just because I asked you what you believe, you assume I believe otherwise? I made a video explaining my view on this. If you want to see it, he didn't reply. So this person said, assuming such a being existed, then it probably isn't bound by the same reality we are, or any we're capable of understanding. In my opinion, this isn't a valid question. We can't comprehend infinity, how the world came to be, or even all the rules of our reality. Our brains were built for survival, not understanding. Our current limited understanding is a fluke of evolution. That's why I'd say the question is invalid, just like all questions that would try to apply our understanding and rules to that of an omnipotent and omniscient creator. So I say, why do you believe humans are incapable of understanding these things? So in my view, we are capable of understanding anything. You said this, quote, our brains were built for survival, not understanding. Our current limited understanding is a fluke of evolution. But that doesn't explain why you believe it. Can you explain why you believe that the set of things we are capable of learning excludes infinity, how the world came to be, or the rules of reality? Like, what logic did you use to determine this? I want to use that logic to figure out which things we are capable of learning and which things we are not capable of learning. I'm asking this because he's saying there's some set of things we can understand and some other set we can't understand. And then from what I've seen so far, there's a vague line between them. There needs to be a very clear line. Otherwise, the whole concept is nonsense. You have to be able to say very clearly a piece of logic that explains which things we can't understand and which things we can. Otherwise, the whole concept is meaningless. Let's see. That's a long reply. And he boiled it down to something shorter. He goes, he didn't mean perfection. He just means there's some threshold that we can't pass. But he still needs to say what the threshold is. If you can't say what the threshold is, then there isn't a threshold, at least not that you're claiming. Gods cannot break their own laws because gods are mascots of their religions, and thus, okay, so they're thinking religious, like gods that are currently described by current religions. I was just talking about any type of possible god. So they say that's a paradox. There is no logical answer to this. So any comment about what he can or can't do is wrong. Can God create a stone so heavy that even for him is impossible to carry? So I say the logical answer is no, because contradictions are impossible. If you say no, plus etc., you are saying you can't create that stone, which means he is not omnipotent, which means he is not God. The same if he can't lift it. There is no yes or no in that logical answer because there's no right answer. So I think he said this in a very confusing way, but I get it in the end. They're saying that the right answer is there's no God, because both possible ways that he imagined are impossible. I said that weird. Both ways that he imagined are impossible. There are many examples of God betraying the law he allegedly created, which shows you that this God is, I think he was talking about Islam, but I'm not talking about any specific God. This person's asking why I'm asking about God in general rather than the Islamic God. So the point is to help people learn how to think, like about God, and for one thing. Like if you can think more generally about gods in general, any God, then you will do better thinking about a specific claim to God. So this person says, God ideally could do whatever he wants. Anything he did become law of nature. So I asked, do you believe God could contradict himself? Like he makes laws of nature and then breaks them to help or hurt someone. They say he could do anything. So I say, could God have contradictions? He said he could even erase the concept of contradiction. So I ask it like this now. So you think a universe could exist where contradictions are possible, meaning that laws of nature could contradict each other? Why do you believe that's possible? Or let me ask this another way. Suppose there is no God. Could the universe have contradictory laws of nature? What I'm asking here is, first, let's figure out what is possible in the universe. And then let's ask about God. So whether there's a God or not a God that made the universe itself cannot have contradictions. That's the point here. God cannot make, if it exists, cannot make a universe that has contradictions. I wonder if most of the people figured out what I was saying here. Maybe not. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel so you can see more of it. If it helped you, it can help other people that are in your similar situation. So if you want to help more people, please try to make this video go viral.